Coupeville to Steve. Steve, you're live with Congressman Larsen.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Steve, go ahead.
How are you?
I'm fine. What's your question,
Good.
Steve?
Well, I recently sent a letter to you about the OLF concerning these waivers that you signed in Coupeville and elsewhere. And we previously lived in Oak Harbor. And when we moved to Coupeville, we signed the exact same waiver that we signed when we moved into Oak Harbor.
Steve, could you explain what the waiver is? I'm not sure I understand what it is.
The waiver is when you buy a piece of property or a house in this area, you have to sign a piece of paper that says you're aware that there's jet noise.
Oh, okay.
And apparently, the waiver was changed in 1992. The Navy had a waiver that was much more explicit that said there's tactical military aircraft that are going to fly over your house exceeding 100 decibels at times and so forth.
Yeah.
And apparently the county took the initiative to redo that waiver because they, to my understanding, got complaints from developers and landowners that said that this waiver would make it impossible to develop their properties or sell their properties.
Okay.
So the county commissioners at the time agreed and changed the waiver, and it read something to the effect of you will experience some airport noise. And it's a couple of sentences. It's very mild, and when you sign papers, it's a lot of papers that you sign. It's kind of at the bottom of the pile. And like I said, we signed the exact same paper in Oak Harbor that we did when we moved to Coupeville. And in Oak Harbor, it was like, okay.
So Steve, can you get to your question?
Well, my question is, I think that the county and the Navy, to a certain extent, are liable for this. And I think that there's potential for lawsuits here, and I'm wondering about that, and I'm wondering what you think about closing the OLF.
All right, thanks for your question. So on the first point regarding the waiver that you mentioned, I can't say that I knew about that. I wasn't a particular issue come up since I've been in Congress for the last 13 years. But if there's a concern that you have with what sounds, at least the way you describe it, Steve, as a county ordinance or county policy on these land transfers on the sale of real estate, probably best to take it up with the county commission first and see where that goes. I know they won't like me to give them work, but I think that's probably the right place to go. With regards to OLF, I'm committed to ensuring that the Naval Air Station Whidbey Island remains one of our preeminent military installations. I also want to be sure that those who live near the base aren't negatively impacted by those base operations. Now, I've met several times with Whidbey Island residents. They've expressed their concerns about aircraft noise at Whidbey Island and at OLF, that is Outlying Field Coupeville. And at my direction, my office discussed these issues with senior Whidbey Island Naval Air Station leadership. And I've encouraged the base to improve its communications with community members. But I've also been clear to people, too. I don't support closing the Outlying Field Coupeville. It's an important part of the training regimen for our men and women in the Navy who are stationed at NAS Whidbey Island. But the Navy has issued what's called a Notice of Intent, and they're preparing an environmental impact statement, an EIS, that looks specifically at these EA-18G Growler airfield operations that are based out of NAS Whidbey Island. So that would include operations at Outfield and OLF as well. They just had a series of scoping meetings last week, and those scoping meetings were an important initial step for the community to get involved with this process about the environmental impact of operations of the EA-18Gs, the Growlers, at NAS Whidbey Island. And whether you're for or against or don't know what your position is on Outlying Field, OLF Coupeville, or on the Growlers or on the Navy, I encourage you to access this environmental impact statement process. This is a process that belongs to the community. And I actually wrote to commander of U.S. Fleet Forces Command a couple of weeks ago, right before Thanksgiving, before they had these scoping meetings. Thank them for going forward on a full EIS for the E-18G operations at NAS Whidbey Island, Alt Field, and Outlying Field, and encourage them to really listen to both sides, or all 3 or 4 or 5 sides of the concerns that people have. Whether people are for or against, I just really encourage the Navy to be open and to hear intently what people are telling them in our community. I really do encourage folks to be part of that process, to access that process. My office can, provide you the information about where to go to get your comments in about OLF. And please, don't poo-poo this process. It's an important one that exists for you.